Is it pronounced Khmer or Khmer? Why is Cambodian food not as popular on the international scene as Thai or Vietnamese? And can you actually make authentic vegan Cambodian food? That's all questions and topics we'll talk about today. Food is arguably the most important resource in Age of Empires 2, but all we see in game is just a single set of numbers. Throughout this series, we will be diving into see exactly what foods each civilization prepared and ate, and how well I can recreate them. This is Meals of Empires. Today's topic is the Khmer Empire. They are the peoples that are in central Southeast Asia compared to the other empires we're going to talk about in this series, whereas you have the Vietnamese to the east, you have the Burmese to the northwest, and you have the Malaysians to the south. The Khmer Empire, most of its history is documented in the stone carvings that were found in each of the subsequent capitals that the Khmer built. Each king often moved the capital of the empire somewhere not too far away and rebuilt and kind of rewrote the history of that certain period of the empire. Then there's also some knowledge that has been passed down through Chinese texts, through different diplomats, that give us an idea of what foods and what culture the Khmer Empire had. For today's meals, we're going to have a Khmer curry with a traditional Khmer curry base, and along with that, or for dessert, is Num Ansom, which is a dish that's often provided at the Khmer New Year around springtime, and it's pretty much just rice and a banana wrapped in a banana leaf. It's a nice, tasty treat. Let's get started with the cooking. We are going to start on the Num Ansom first, but before we even get to that, I'm going to prep the eggplant. These eggplant varieties, this is called a Japanese or Oriental eggplant. It's the long, skinny version. These aren't as bitter as the more common aubergine or eggplant. So yeah, this is an optional step to remove the skin of the eggplant, and we'll give the slices a bit of a soak to soak out any bitterness, any of those compounds. So I'm going to say Khmer for a lot of this episode, just because that's what I'm used to saying in English. But the pronunciation in Cambodian is closer to Khmer, spelled out K''Mai. There's no standardization of translating Cambodian or the Khmer language into a Latin script, into the Latin alphabet. So you'll see a lot of recipes that will have similar sounding names. It's up to you to realize, oh, those are similar sounding letters. This might actually be the same recipe. There are some generalizations that we can make about the differences between Khmer recipes and the other recipes of Southeast Asia. They don't have as much of that coastal land that's ideal for growing coconut, so there's a little bit less coconut in the recipes. All right, so I'll put these aside for now on the table while they soak. What we're going to start on next is our Num Ansom. So really what we're having here is we're going to have our banana leaves, we're going to have our rice that's just been soaking for about 5 or 6 hours now, hasn't been pre-cooked at all. We've had the mung beans on the series before, but not in bean form. We've had mung bean sprouts in the urap salad for the Malay. The yellow that you see there, often just referred to as yellow bean, is the split mung bean. So it's been split in half and the shell has come off, and the green is just the whole bean. So the split version, like we discussed with the Gurjaras, split version of the beans cook much faster, and that's what I used here. These have been cooked ahead of time for about an hour, and we're going to put like a few spoonfuls on top of the rice. I'm going to start by draining the rice and adding some coconut milk and sugar back into the rice to flavor it all up. And I might add a little bit of sugar to the beans as well, just to get a little bit more of that flavor. The mung beans starting off are just kind of earthy, vegetal taste, a little bit nutty, but they don't have much flavor to themselves. How do they make coconut cream? Is it just concentrated coconut milk? Yeah, it's just coconut milk with less water, really. So instead of just concentrating it, you just add less of the coconut water back in, more of the pulp. All right, there's our coconut cream mixed in with our rice. For our sugar, I'm just going to be using jaggery, which is a less refined sugar from sugarcane. This one I am going to eyeball as well. I don't have a traditional steamer. The steaming is just going to be put the leaves, the bundles, into this colander, water underneath, lid on top, just to try to contain some of that steam in the system. You can try to boil these as well. They're cooked by boiling, steaming, or over a fire roasting. But steaming gives the fastest results. Another dish that's similar is called kralan. Krellan is thought to have originally been a military ration for the Khmer Empire. So instead of using a banana leaf, they would use bamboo stalks, and they would fill the hollow section of the bamboo with a very similar mixture to what we have here with the rice, the coconut milk, the sugar, and they would use black-eyed peas as well, which we'll have a very similar mixture when we get to the Vietnamese. You can tell who's bad at wrapping, who didn't wrap many Christmas presents this year, who just relies on gift bags instead. So we're going to take a spoonful of our rice. You can think of the mung beans as just a little bit of flavoring for our rice, and then we'll take our banana and slide that right in the middle. The banana leaves are fairly delicate, so we're going to pull all of that rice mixture back over to the side. We're going to fold over. Don't be afraid to use your hands to get everything where you want it to be. I'm going to fold these ends in. And then wrap that back over. And then you just have to make sure everything stays together while you get your twine around. And when you're wrapping the twine, you still want to be very delicate, not too harsh, because the twine can just rip through the banana leaf as well. And there's our neat little package. Not as easy to make as tamales, I'd say. The corn husks stay together a little bit easier, but it's a nice package around Christmas time, though not necessarily the right religion for the Khmer. One of the interesting rice varieties found in Cambodia is deep water rice. This is a cultivar of rice that can grow very quickly to deal with the monsoon floods that happen. So as the water level gets really, really high, this rice can stay submerged and continue to grow until it's up above the surface. It'll have little air pockets within its stems that keep it floating, so it's also called floating rice. Num Ansom represents a cylinder or a phallic, which represents the male part of fertility, whereas Num Kom is shaped into a square pyramidal shape and represents the womb. The pyramidal shape is definitely a little bit more difficult to pull off. So now that our Num Ansom is steaming away and will be steaming for the next hour, we can start working on our Khmer curry. The base of our Khmer curry is called the Kaweng. I believe that's pronunciation. It's similar in etymology to the Thai word for curries, which is kaeng. There's like an extra vowel in the Cambodian one, kaweng. The main basis that you see in the curry paste is your turmeric, your galangal, your shallots, your lime leaves, garlic, lemongrass, which would preferably be in a fresh stalk, but since I don't have access, we're going for dried powder, and then usually some sort of hot pepper. And I mentioned before in this series that peppers in the Capsicum genus or genera are from Central America, and so what we have instead is piper, aka peppercorns. And these are green peppercorns that have been dried, so they have a slightly more fruity flavor than the black peppercorns that you would usually have in a pepper mill. And luckily I was able to get some this time. I didn't have them previously when we did the Malay. We're going to be doing a mix of dicing and grinding all these ingredients together, and that will be the start of our curry, followed by the eggplants. Shallots are just very similar to onions. I would say they're the onion that's more common in Southeast Asian cooking. Cambodian cuisine is less common, I would say, on the international stage compared to the neighboring Thai and Vietnamese cuisine. And my idea behind that might be due to the Cambodian genocide, which occurred from 1975 to 1979. That was an auto-genocide, or a genocide of the ruling class against its own people, which severely impacted the population. About 25% of the population died in the process. The cuisine during that period completely collapsed, where people were just reverting to eating rice gruel or whatever they could get their hands on. So we've ground up our green peppers very well. We have our galangal, we have our lemongrass, and we have our turmeric. And now I'm grounding up the other ingredients that I've already diced up, that being our shallots, garlic, and the kaffir lime leaves. The lime leaves are known as both makrut and kaffir, but it should refer to the same variety and species with the same flavors. We're going to use coconut oil to start sauteing our curry. Of course, this being winter, the coconut oil is fairly solid. Oil has heated up and melted. We can add our croang right into the mix and start sauteing it. Start getting those flavors really mixing together. It's already super pungent. The kaffir lime leaves and the lemongrass are really standing out. While that's going, we can also start the steamed rice that will be a side for the curry. I'm adding a cup of rice along with 2 cups of water, or 500 mils of water, 2-to-1 ratio. We'll bring our eggplant back over and start dicing it now that it's soaked. There are 3 main varieties of aubergine or eggplant in my mind. The first is the Thai eggplant, which is where the word eggplant comes from. The Thai eggplant is a small round cultivar that is generally white with some green stripes that can be about the size of an egg. They're said to taste a bit more bitter than the other varieties, and they retain more of their crunch while they're being cooked. They are actually eaten raw in Cambodian cuisine with a dipping sauce that has ingredients similar to the croang we're making here. The second variety is the Japanese or Oriental eggplant, which is the long, skinny aubergine we're using here. And then the last variety is what I call the fat aubergine or the Indian eggplant. These are the big, beautiful, dark purple aubergines that we've used in the recipes so far in this series, and the ones you most often find in North America and Europe. There is a 4th eggplant that is occasionally found in Southeast Asian cooking, which is sometimes called the pea eggplant. It is not in the same species as the other aubergine I just mentioned. It's actually native to the New World. It's found in the lands surrounding the Caribbean from Florida down to Brazil, and of course through the Caribbean as well. There are all the eggplants. I'm going to add a touch of water just to keep things from sticking to the bottom. Look at all these eggplant pieces, completely covered in our croang, our curry paste. They're going to be so tasty once they're done. I'm going to put the lid on and just let them cook for about 10 minutes, I think. Should be just enough time. While everything continues cooking away, we can do our one and only trivia question for today's episode. We're going to play 3 truths and a lie. I'm going to list out 4 different recipes, and you're going to tell me which one is a lie, does not exist, is completely made up. A, we have fish amok, a fish curry that is turned into a mousse and served in banana leaves. B, we have samlar kako, called Cambodian ratatouille, with loads of vegetables, fruit, fish, meat, and the signature flavor is roasted and then ground rice. C, we have tau dakin, a grilled banana stuffed into a catfish, stuffed into a watermelon, served with a coconut dipping sauce. And D, aping, fried spiders spiced with salt, sugar, and garlic. I'll give you a moment to think over which one of those you think might be made up. The one that is made up is tau dakin. I completely made up that name. It just includes a lot of those similar ingredients. We have bananas, we have catfish, the seafood and meat feature pretty heavily in Cambodian cuisine. So it can make it a little bit difficult if you're traveling to Cambodia as a vegan or you're trying to recreate some of these Cambodian meals as a vegan. But as we found today, there are still some options available. So the eggplant has cooked down fairly well. It's just where we want it. The pieces are fairly soft all throughout, but it hasn't completely turned to mush yet. It's that fine moment where we want to now add our coconut milk and coconut cream. So I'll add the remainder of the coconut cream that we didn't use in our rice earlier. And I know I mentioned earlier that Cambodians aren't going to be using as much coconut as other cultures, but I'm going to use as much coconut as I can when the opportunity presents itself. And we'll let those flavors mingle for a little bit longer. Last thing to remember for our curry is to add in our salt. The salt was not part of our curry paste, so we're just going to salt and taste it now to make sure the salt levels are good. So Abby, here we have our Khmer dinner. We have our Num Ansom, which is our dessert. This is glutinous rice with some coconut milk, some sugar, and a banana hiding in there, as well as some mung bean paste, all wrapped in a banana leaf to steam. Then we have our Khmer curry, base of eggplant and a lot of different ingredients in our curry paste, and then finished off with some coconut milk and then some beautiful steamed rice here to eat it all with.
You can tell there's coconut.
Mm-hmm.
It smells like coconut.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say that the smells and the flavors that you're actually tasting are different.
Yeah.
They're not mixing.
No. There's not much flavor.
I know. It's weird given what I started with.
It smells great, but it's not
But the
flavorful.
flavors aren't really there. Yeah. I think they're muted partially by the coconut oils. And I think it tastes fishy, which is so weird because there's no fish paste despite how prevalent fish paste is in Khmer cooking. And to finish off, you can enjoy some of the rice. I don't know why the banana turned pink. I think it just oxidized during the cooking process. Let's get to the rating then. Execution. Do you have any thoughts? Do you think I could use more spices?
It looks great. Maybe like a 9,
Okay. 9 on execution based off looks, which makes sense.
but flavor is not great. Flavor profile is not.
Flavors just need more spice.
Need more something. I don't
Okay.
know. Salt?
Yeah. Should you serve this to your girlfriend?
No.
No?
So like a 4?
Okay. 4 on should you serve this to your girlfriend. What do you think of dessert? Also,
don't want to eat it.
Really?
The cooked banana being pink, that freaks me out.
Okay, I get that. The coconut milk has definitely diluted a lot of those flavors, has covered up a lot of those flavors we added earlier with the kruang, the curry mix. Once you taste it, you just kind of get the aromatics, and a lot of that is the lime leaves just kind of go into your nasal passages, it feels like. It's not really like settling on your tongue all that much. The eggplant don't add too much to the dish. They don't have much flavor. They're more just soaking up the different flavors that are in the dish. You can always add in other Asian vegetables. You could have some broccoli coming from China. You could have some lotus roots. We'll save that for a future episode of Southeast Asian Empire. I think I could have added a little bit more sugar to the Num Ansom. The banana is the sweetest part for sure, right in the middle there. But I like just the cooking process, how everything comes together at the end. The texture is quite nice. Just being able to eat it as a finger food is very, very fun. But the amount of flavor that the banana peel can impart on all of the dish that's steamed inside of it is really spectacular. Next week, we will have an ally of the Khmer. We will have the Dravidians, the Chola Empire found in southern India. Feel free to subscribe if you want to be notified when the next video is out, and like or share with one of your friends. Until then, I'll see you in the comments.